Welcome back. In this lecture, we are going to understand about the Terraform data sources concept. So, data sources allow data to be fetched or computed for use elsewhere in the Terraform configuration. So, use of data sources allows a Terraform configuration to make use of information defined outside of Terraform or defined by another separate Terraform configuration project. So with that said, it can be used in two ways. One is any information outside of Terraform, okay, some other APIs of a cloud if you want to call, and those APIs are available as a data source using that respective provider. So then you will be able to access that which is outside of Terraform. In the same way, there is another Terraform project, and from that if you want to gather some information and then use in this current Terraform project also, you can use that. Okay, in both ways you can use the data sources. So a data source is accessed via a special kind of resource known as data resource, and it is declared using a block called data block. So let's see the example which we are going to implement as part of our demo directly in the introductory part itself. Okay, so the data block, so this is the complete data block and this is the data resource. Okay, so whatever the resource you are creating here is a data resource, and this data resource whatever you have created here is going to call the data source. Okay, so that's the important thing here. So what is data source, what is data resource, and then what is data block? So that we need to understand clearly. So this whatever you have created, this whole thing is a data resource, and or you can call it as a data block, and this is going to call the AWS underscore AMI. Okay, so this is the data source it is going to call, and for this respective data source, for this respective data resource, the local name is going to be AMZ Linux, whatever we have defined. So what this respective data source is, data resource is going to do is get latest AMI ID from Amazon Linux to OS. Okay, so I said that most recent is true, and then I provided the owners, who is the owners of my AMI ID is Amazon, and I have also defined additional filters to find from a pool of all the Amazon IDs present in Amazon. So if you see, if you go to Amazon UI, right, so if you go to the console and go to AMIs here, right, so if you go to AMIs here, so you can search for these things like this. Okay, so you can apply the filters and then get the valid AMI IDs for you. So if you want, I can take and then put it in new console and we'll go here. Okay, so owned by me, not me here. So I am trying to get the latest Amazon Linux AMI. So what does that mean? So I'll show you here. Okay, so I'm trying to get always the latest Amazon Linux. So if I click on here and then say launch instances, so this is the Amazon Linux 2 AMI latest whatever I want. Okay, so how I need to get this? So automatically using the data source API. So this is the AWS AMI data source which you can define to get that type of things. Okay, so there will be a lot of argument and attribute references you can use inside this. So we'll go here and search for that. Okay, so I'll say here public images and now search for your first thing. Okay, so you are saying the owner is Amazon images. Okay, in the same way you can define, so now you can see it is 9812. Okay, so 1250 of 9812 is displaying here. If you remove this, it is close to 1,38,533. So first let's bring down the images to Amazon images. Okay, so now what is our next filter? Okay, so I said that Amazon images, and then I can also say virtualization type is HVM. Okay, so that is another thing. So now it reduced to 8525. Okay, and now I can even say root device. Okay, root device type is EBS. Okay, so I'll go here and then this is root device type. Okay, root device type is EBS. So now it will reduce to some more 8409, and next I'll also filter with the name. Okay, so AMI name, and I can give the name as AMZN2-AMI-HVM star. Okay, AMZN2 hyphen. So this should go away. So I'll give amzn2 hyphen ami hyphen hvm hyphen star. Okay, so this is giving me close to 114 images based on creation date from 2018. So I'll go to end of the things. Okay, and if you find here, so the Amazon images, whatever the Amazon image you are seeing 4892, I am finding it here. Okay, because this is the most latest one available as on today in the last 114 screen at the end, right? So on February 20, 2021, this is the AMI created, whose owner is Amazon Images, virtualization type is HVM, root device type is EBS. Okay, and AMI name is like this. So these are the filters you have defined in the UI. In the same way, those filters you can define in your respective data AWS AMI Amazon Linux. So like that we have defined them, and here we also gave the architecture type x86_64 because so architecture will be 64-bit and also 64-bit ARM, right? So accordingly whatever you need you can get it. So here also you can see root device type is EBS, virtualization type is HVM, and owner is Amazon Linux. Okay, so Amazon as the owners of this AMI. So like this you can filter on the UI and then get your thing. Okay, so now this need to be brought automatically for you and then replace it when you are creating the instance. So always get me the latest Amazon Linux 2 AMI and then create the EC2 instance using that. That is my requirement. If that is the case, then you will use the data source whatever is present here, AWS AMI, and then provide all the argument and attribute references, argument references whatever you need, and then you will define them accordingly. So like this you have defined those things here and then implemented it. So we are going to anyway write it down with live template writing one more time when we are implementing the demo. So let's continue with the introductory part about Terraform data sources. Okay, so each data resource is associated with a single data source. Okay, so this is a data resource and then it is associated with a single data source which determines the kind of object or objects it reads and what query constraint arguments are available for that. And finally we also discussed, so data source is also a kind of resource. Now it is called a data resource. So which means, and you are also seeing that it is also defined in the same format as resources. And when you have learning about resources, you have seen about multiple meta arguments, right? Like depends on and then count and then for each, right? So all those are applicable for data sources or not, let's discuss here. Okay, so data resources have the same dependency resolution behavior as defined for managed resources. Okay, so it's same as resources only. So data resources also can have the depends on meta argument. Okay, but here the important thing is setting the depends on meta argument within data blocks differ reading of the data source until after all changes to the dependency have been applied. Okay, so that's about it. So if you want to use it or not is our choice, but it also supports it, and at what point of time the dependency is used also it is telling us. And next thing is, so how you are going to use that data resource. Okay, so you created a data resource to get the latest AMI ID. So what you are going to do here is we can go to our resource AWS instance myEC2 VM, and inside the AMI argument, right? So these are called arguments. So inside AMI argument you will say that data dot, so data is the data block, right? So data dot AWS_AMI, which is the data source data resource type, dot local name of that respective data resource AMZ Linux dot ID. So you can get the latest AMI ID and then assign it to AMI argument name using this format. Okay, and next thing is meta arguments for data sources. Already we discussed about depends on meta argument. So now let's also discuss three more, which is count, for each, and then lifecycle, all those things. Okay, so for data resources support the provider meta argument as defined for managed resources with the same syntax and behavior. So if you remember in multiple providers section we learned about for resources how you can use the multiple providers using the provider meta argument. So same concept is also applicable for us here also with the data resources concept. So next thing is data resources do not currently have any customization setting available for the life cycle, okay, but the life cycle nested block is reserved here. So with that said, these data resources doesn't support the life cycle meta argument, okay. And finally, data resources support count and for each meta arguments as defined by managed resources with the same syntax and behavior. So each instance will be separately read from its data source with its own variant of the constraint arguments, producing an indexed result for us when we use count or for each with data resources. So that's what count and for each does, and that's what it is mentioned here. So this completes the introductory part of Terraform data sources. So we'll go ahead and then implement whatever we have shown in the screenshots here in a step-by-step manner. So I'll see you in the next lecture. Until then, bye bye. Thank you.